I think what we are learning is that the pursuit of becoming a great presenter or a great business communicator is a never-ending journey. We can always, there's always another thread to pull. It's like the more we learn, the more we realize is out there. There's so many good books, but every time you read that good book, it's going to lead you to the next thing, right? And so I would say just start absorbing and start being a diagnostician and paying attention. When you see a good TED Talk, ask yourself, why was that a good TED Talk? And, think about, oh gosh, what was the story arc? And then, hey, like what were they doing with their hands and their body language? And if you can start to now sit as a presentation thinker, you're going to start to pay attention to what makes a bad pitch, what makes a good one, and maybe just make those mental notes.
Hey there, and welcome to yet another episode of the World of Presentations podcast, brought to you by us at Presentation Agency 356 Labs. I'm Boris, the founder of the company and your host for today's episode. And with me, I have a colleague of ours who is also the founder of a presentation agency, and I would say a boutique presentation agency located in the US. His company is called GhostRanch Communications. They just published their new website. It is amazing, by the way. We were just talking with our guest about it. Their technical director is one of our speakers for Present to Succeed 2022. That is also nice. And by the way, he and his team work for brands like DocuSign, Oracle, and yeah, these are just to name a few. So who is with us today? We have Michael Mioduski. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Boris, thank you so much. It's super exciting to be here.
Brilliant. Michael, we always start the conversation with how did you end up part of this presentation industry? Like, what happened?
That's funny. What happened? Yeah, I think we say, presentation design doesn't find, you don't find it, it finds you. And I think a lot of us come from various backgrounds. I wanted to go into advertising, got a job, finally a foot in the door at a software as a startup, tech startup in Indianapolis, and just became a generalist graphic designer, did all the marketing design, the website, you name it. And then, I would always get asked by the sales department, when the marketing director wasn't looking, my boss, they'd like sneak in and be like, Mikey, like, can we get a slide, or the the CEO would always pull me aside, like, I got a webinar tomorrow. Can I get a slide? And so that theme, kept hearing it, right? Like, can I get a slide? Can I get a slide? And no one was really like set up to do it, right? But I think because I was a designer, I would always, maybe I cared a little more than anybody else. And then eventually, they're like, oh, Mikey can do this better than what we do. And he takes it seriously. And so just by like being relatively better or maybe caring a little more about those presentations, kind of found that groove and sort of, carved out a little niche and actually realized this is an amazing medium. It involves so many of the things that we like to do. It's not just, at a certain point, some of the website work I was working on, I felt like I was a little more detached from maybe the message. It was more like I was reskinning something, but I didn't have much influence over the results or the story or the message. Whereas, with presentations, I felt like I was actually in touch with what these people are trying to do. And it was that really intimate connection between a presenter and the person working to elevate it. So I fell in love with it that way.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Obviously, you also became part of the industry by some kind of it was not like something direct in a way. I mean, it was not like anyway, like most people, I would say you ended up having a full-blown agency that works with such a great brands out there. Michael, when we were exchanging emails about the podcast, and again, just have in mind that our audience that's listening right now are business people.
Yes.
As we like to say, together with the conference, the model of the conference is that the conference itself is for people in the business world that are being asked to present, whether they like it or not. That's how I like to say.
I love that.
You mentioned 3 topics that we were able to choose from, like what should we discuss today, and one of them was presentation thinking.
Mhm.
We have never had anything like this. What do you like? What is presentation thinking all about? What do you mean when you say presentation thinking, and why would a business person kind of associate or relate to that topic? Let's go
Awesome.
there.
Yeah, I think presentation thinking is this concept that to make a good presentation requires you to pull from many different disciplines. So we know that a presentation needs to look good, right? So graphic design, good
Yeah,
typography, good layout, those are things that we learn, as designers. Um, but you start to think about what a presentation really is. There's the storytelling component, right? So what else is on the slide is the copywriting. So you need to be,
yeah,
hey, am I good at writing quippy, nice, strong, articulate headlines? And then thinking about how do those headlines and the copy on the slide, how does that pair with the visuals on the slide? And that's stuff that we learned in advertising, right? So advertising, that discipline is really good at breaking through the noise. And these days, with so much information coming at us, we could also learn a lot from how do you break through the noise and make sure something's memorable. And then when you think about memorability, we think about behavioral psychology, neuroscience. Things. There's speakers out there who talk about why content sticks, why some messages resonate and land with us, and why some are more forgettable. And there's speakers out there like Dr. Carmen Simon, who's written a book, on why certain things stand out to us. Um, then there's the persuasion, right? A presentation needs to persuade, motivate somebody. So you could draw inspiration from great coaches or teachers or salespeople out there. Um, there's script writing, right? There's the legit, what can we learn from film and those story arcs that they have brilliantly, and scientifically almost like been able to develop that hook us in. And why do we get hooked in at the beginning? And then there's of course the beginning and middle. We can learn so much from all these different disciplines, not to mention the workflows. I think a lot of us, we know what it takes. There's lots of good books on what makes a good presentation, but what goes into it, there's so many different processes. And I'm sure, Boris, like you all at 356 have your own processes. And what we've noticed at Ghost Ranch is all the speakers we work with do it a different way, right? There's no one way
yeah.
to develop a presentation. And so I think there's a lot of the back end, like behind the scenes workflows, and not to mention like the tech, the AV, the venue, where
Yeah.
it's all going to be take place. So all of these disciplines come together. And if you want to be a really well-rounded presenter, then you would maybe look past just, hey, pop in a Google image, make a pretty slide. There's so much more that can go into it.
And oh, by the way, you're mentioning all of those, and it seems like even though you kind of mentioned it, there is one that I would say is just missing, which is still a big one, which is the delivery part, which we can take inspiration from so many people in such various so many industries, or yeah, like actors and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so many people that you can just take ideas or steal ideas from. So Michael, what does that mean? Like, does that mean that every person that's aiming at becoming great communicator, great presenter, needs to somehow spend or plan to spend, I don't know, time in their from their day or week or month just exploring all of those, different areas, because he or she will know, wait a minute, this will make me better in that part, this will make me better in that part.
Yeah.
So even though it's not exactly presentation related, I can
Mm-hmm.
just steal ideas from there.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. And it's I'd say it would be overwhelming to think I have to learn all these things, right?
Of course.
I think what we are learning is that the pursuit of becoming a great presenter or a great business communicator is a never-ending journey. We can always there's always another thread to pull. It's like the more we learn, the more we realize is out there. There's so many good books, but every time you read that good book, it's going to lead you to the next thing, right? And so I would say just start absorbing and start being a diagnostician and paying attention. When you see a good TED talk, ask yourself, why was that a good TED talk? And think about, oh gosh, what was the story arc? And then, hey, like what were they doing with their hands and their body language? And if you can start to now sit as a presentation thinker you're going to start to pay attention to what makes a bad pitch, what makes a good one, and maybe just make those mental notes. But no, we're not all going to be able to absorb and master all these things at once. But you have to, if you want to commit to becoming better, just start paying attention, right? And one little thing at a time. How can this book I just read inform the presentation I'm giving next week? And just realizing that it's more than just making things pretty, right? It's about the 360 holistic view of what makes a good presentation.
Yeah, I would completely agree, by the way, with everything that you're saying, but more particular with 2 points that you just made around the books. And when you have when you think that you know a lot of things and then you read a book and it's like, wow, that completely changed the way I see things for me. Very recently, I would say 2 years ago, this book was on the topic of storytelling, but the neuroscientific point of it. The book that is called Story Smart and Story Proof and Story Smart. These are 2 books by Kendall Haven. These completely shocked me and restarted the way and the thinking that I had, or the belief that I had that I know something about that topic. It was like, oh wow, that is a completely different ballgame here. It is like it was incredible to read those. By the way, recommendation and recommending them to everyone. Mr. Kendall Haven was one of our speakers at 2021 Present Succeed, will join us today, not today, this year again. But the other thing that you just mentioned that was extremely interesting that now I forgot, which would be a very cool moment for the podcast. But so let's see how this one will go. Anyway, no matter the fact. So I wanted to also point out to like that. Oh yeah, I remembered, by the way.
Yeah.
Now I remember when you said that you can take ideas from everywhere, and you mentioned that part of it obviously is that we know, or many people know, that hey, slides should be well designed, etc. That's why people find it strange that I end up watching fashion shows, and I steal a lot of ideas from there. I'm not a designer like you, but when you see the high-end fashion, you will see an attention to detail that is mesmerizing. It's just amazing. And when you see those top 5 or top 10 brands like Dior, Prada, all of the popular ones, and you look at their fashion shows twice per year, whatever they are, you can see the dresses and you're like, wait a minute, these colors work very well. It's like you can steal so many ideas from there. It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
That's brilliant. Dang, I'm gonna do that now, and that's why we know you're so sharply dressed, Boris, and that's awesome. And I think
No.
for your listeners too, who I think are business people, right? And maybe the same can be said, right? Sure, we need to know about our business. You could read the Wall Street Journal or Business Insider, but if you can pull in things from passion from outside your life, if you're a climber or you love to knit, whatever it is, hopefully those things can in some way inform even your day-to-day business, right? And I think it makes us a little deeper as people. And if we can bring in those analogies or just like different ideas from the outside world that could somehow give us a unique perspective, it'll make us, it'll give you that better vantage point and that perspective that can differentiate you.
Yeah. Before I ask you, by the way, if we have to advise the listeners or the people that are watching this on YouTube, what is the right order, or is there a right order to approach, all of those areas? By the way, I completely agree. And now when I think about it, being kind of curious about so many things, because I personally am extremely curious, even about things that are very much unrelated to what I do and to what we do together with you. I remember how, like, many years before 356 Labs started, there was, because I'm coming from the IT world, again, I'm not a designer, I came from the IT. I remember how I read an article, and it was coming, I believe, from NASA, which was saying that NASA found the equivalent or the mirror of the Earth, and it was called Kepler 45b or something like that. I don't remember anymore. 42b or 45b, I don't know. And I read that article just out of curiosity, and then 1 or 2 months later, I had to present and to deliver a presentation on a technical topic. And when I saw the topic, I was like, wait a minute, this looks like I can compare one thing with how people work and react and operate on the earth, and the other with how people would work, operate, and live on Kepler. These two different worlds, I'll illustrate them this way and make an otherwise technical topic very strangely interesting and unusual. And just because of that article, that presentation was like incredible. It was so well accepted all across Europe. It was super, super interesting. So yet again, awesome. A confirmation on your theory, by the way. That's interesting.
That's awesome.
So what is the order? Let's exclude the domain knowledge, because people in our case are marketing, HR. It's clear that you have to have the domain knowledge, right? Yep. But you need to keep it. You need to obviously keep yourself updated, etc. What is then the order? What is the topic, or what are the top? How would you approach it?
Yeah.
Where should people spend time first? Let's say.
I think and I don't want to discredit like anything, but I would say, like, let's start with the low hanging fruit, which I think you and I know that could be cramming a bunch of 50 bullets on the slide. How can, that's low hanging fruit. So, I would say thinking about the aesthetic and the appearance is an area where we can quickly elevate a presentation. So there's books out there, Nancy Duarte's Slideology or Gar Reynolds, that Presentation Zen. Those are like some of those, just if you don't know much about design or presentation design, pick one of those up and they're going to tell you the do's and the don'ts. Like, again, it's the 101 level to quickly bring you up to speed to say, do this, don't do this, right? And that can at least give you a really good head start. So I would start there, because it's pretty glaringly obvious when we see a really, a presentation that has some of those fatal errors, So if you can make it look like you know about that stuff, certainly from there you can go a lot deeper with graphic design, studying grid and layout and typography. Typography is a really good one to start with, just typography 101. Look that up online. And so some of that stuff might help with the general aesthetics. I might start there. If you want to then get into what is visual storytelling, now we're talking about data visualization and what can a really good image do to help drive your story. Maybe that's the next step, because now we're starting to think about story, right? And then from there, I think mastering story is going to be something that is a never-ending quest. Like you said, there's, there's those books like Story Smart. There's, Tamsin Webster's Red Thread that came out last year. There's always going to be new books on storytelling, and story is like that human thing that it involves so much of the emotional intelligence, and that's the long game. But study that. Like, one quick one, Aaron Sorkin has this really good masterclass. He's a screenwriter, and he wrote like the Social Network movie and West Wing.
Oh,
and
wow.
He has a really cool masterclass, I think, on script writing. But he is very interested in the history of storytelling and really cites Aristotle's Poetics as like the rules of storytelling, right? And so maybe start there. That might lead you somewhere else. But then you touched on like performance and delivery. There's a whole industry of speaking coaches, right? And there's Toastmasters Club. If you want to get over the fear of speaking, there's tons of really good stuff out there. Matt Abrahams has a podcast called Think Fast, Talk Smart. He talks about getting over the nerves and really good tips to just be more comfortable presenting. So I think that's maybe how I'd lay it out, Boris. Like, you're putting me on the spot, but I think we're always going to be pulling these things together. But think about aesthetics, lead into visual storytelling, and then maybe the performance and delivery as you're going to master that.
Yeah. I would add that the design, the design part, especially what you mentioned around aesthetics and the books. These books, all the books that you mentioned, are just fantastic. We have mentioned them so many times on the podcast. One of the very interesting things, I believe, I don't know what's your opinion, would be curious to hear, is that nowadays you see these platforms emerging like Canva. Okay, Canva is not an emerging platform, but still, like, they're a humongous platform. But you see platforms like Canva, like pitch.com. I don't know if you've seen that
Mhm.
one appearing nowadays in the industry. Beautiful AI, and all of those places where there are so many designs that are ready to be used.
Mhm.
And I believe that one of the super easy ways for people to understand, okay, how should I design my slides, is to just spend 1 hour in the next month per platform to just explore the templates, you know, because you will be, I think people will be stunned how much great design there is out there in the context of presentations, not
Mhm.
just great design, but in the context of a business presentation, investor deck, a startup pitch, whatever it might be. There are ready designs, and just once you see them, just ask yourself. This was what I was doing, by the way, when I was reading the books of Gar and Nancy Duarte. I was looking at the designs and I was like, wait a minute, I can use that. Like as a like I get the idea. The image should be on the right, it should be super high quality,
Mhm.
and the text should be on the left, and the font should be different, not Calibri. And if I put my images and my font, that should work because I can see it working. So I was just copy pasting ideas and just
Yeah.
changing things, and it was working. It was very strange.
Oh, I love that. No, I mean, it's such a if it exists, if those like standard layouts are in that template, it's because they work, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. And if sometimes using that framework with the preloaded layouts and big headline statement slide, yeah, those work and they're there for a reason, right? And so, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's so many awesome layouts and pre-designed templates out there. Um, they might not tell your specific visual story, but at least it's a really good head start, right?
Yeah. By the way, do you know what I reminded myself of? Back then, we Tom, who runs Synapsis Creative in Australia, he was
Yeah.
part of the podcast, and he was talking actually about you probably know that Synapsis are really crazy when it gets to animations in PowerPoint. They are like sick.
Yeah.
And so Tom, as part of the podcast, said, so how I asked him, so how is then a business professional going to do all of those animations? And he was like, just take a movie or any animation that you see somewhere, and just every single frame, pause it and see how the object moves frame by frame,
Hmm.
and then you will understand how it works and you can recreate it in PowerPoint. And I was like, that is a great idea,
That's really
that
smart. Yeah,
that is
Tom
a
is
great
incredible,
idea.
by the way. Yeah, that guy's he blew our mind when he first showed us a animation demo at Presentation Summit a couple years back.
Yeah,
Incredibly
so
talented.
yet another area for people to explore. Like when you're looking at animations, or I don't know, like uh, illustrated type of
Yeah.
movies or anything like cinematic type of, you can just look at the animations and ask yourself, wait a minute, can this be done in PowerPoint? Because it looks cool, I like it, and I may have a presentation where if I'm able to do that, that presentation will immediately differentiate me from everyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this advice of Tom was great. I will make sure that we also link his episode here
Yeah, that's
somewhere in
awesome.
the
I
show
want to
notes.
listen. Yeah. And then even, that's motion graphics. There's also that whole realm of like sequential art or like comics.
Mm,
Comic books, they didn't have the benefit of being able to animate things, and yet they could still dynamically draw the reader through a story with minimal text. And there's something about studying comic books as well. And I think there's some books out there that I need to dig into too that are on our reading list about what makes that good storytelling as well. Once
yeah,
again, just another thread that we can pull to become better presentation thinkers, right?
yeah, absolutely. Now I remind myself about sketching and how you brainstorm ideas and how that area also exploded in the last few years with those sketchbooks and yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, it's so many. So there is inspiration for presentations everywhere. Let's just leave it. Let's just
That's
leave it
it.
there, and
Yeah.
yeah, and just probably you have to just open your eyes and be willing to, I don't know, to consume it maybe,
Yeah,
yeah,
consume it exactly. And yeah, next time you're at a big conference, I think you'll probably pay attention and say, "Hey, why did I like that one and why was I falling asleep during this other one?" And is it there's so many things that go into it, and now that you're paying attention to it and you can get inspired from all your surroundings. And then the next step, Boris, then is just like practice. I think a lot of us might want to wait for some big presentation moment, but if we can just get out there, hey, I saw this movie, I was thinking about this presentation around it or something like that. Maybe you can just test it with your team and just get more comfortable like practicing and throwing some ideas out there, because a lot of times it's the feedback that helps us then better iterate, because a lot of times like presentations a lot of times are things that we keep giving. If you're a startup founder and you need to go raise money, chances are you're not going to get it all on the very first pitch. So you have like potentially hundreds of meetings to keep refining it, keep tuning it. And so we don't have to be too precious with it. And that, as long as we know that, hey, we can learn from this one and then make the next one that much better based on what the feedback that we're getting.
Yeah, by the way, yesterday I was on a call with Horst Schulze, who is one of the speakers for the event, who is the co-founder of Ritz-Carlton and all of those. Yeah, he is this person. Every single time when I join a call with him, it is amazing. It's just incredible to speak with him. He has so much experience. Like just the fact that he created Ritz-Carlton and the whole customer experience there was his work. That's what he did. And then he said, okay, enough with Ritz-Carlton. It's already the best hotel. Let me now go to the next level, and created Capella Group. And that one on the second year became the #1 hotel in the world. It's just like, what is going on here? So yesterday we were discussing something for his session for the event, and he said something that you more or less pointed out, and he was talking about it in the context of the hotels, the hotel chains, the service there, etc. And he was talking about every single role that they have in a hotel, and how the leadership and the communication there and the values there, like everything was pointing. One of the things that they were super focused at were to make everyone in the hotel ask themselves on every single interaction, no matter what type of the interaction was, or no matter what you have done yourself, after it's over, after you serve the food to the guest, how can I do that better? How can I do it better? Every single time, after every single thing that you do on the reception, on the cleaning, on the bar, how can I serve this drink better? How can I present better? How can I write that story better? Every single time. And when you hear it from him, it's like, wow. Okay.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is exactly what you're saying. Just practicing and then going back to it, listening to the feedback of the others, or maybe even let's push people to search for it. Right? Because many people are searching, asking for feedback, if at all, and they're willing to accept, well, it was great. It's great. Of course it was great, right? And they're not willing to look for that, useful feedback. When that is
one
the thing
one thing you'd recommend I work on, or where's one area I could improve? Yeah.
Correct.
Just one thing to work on is
okay, it was great. Tell me one thing.
Yeah.
Just one, right? Just one. Yeah, of course. All right. That's such an interesting discussion. Anyway, so to sum it up, we can take inspiration from absolutely everywhere. Clear. Then once we take that inspiration, or while we are taking that inspiration, the idea here is, hey, let's try to apply this, right? Step by step, right? And then look forward to the feedback, or try to ask ourselves, how can we do that better the next time, right? Is there another level somewhere, and can I do it in a way? Anything else that we want to add here?
No, I don't think so. I love that.
I don't think so either.
Virtuous cycle, you keep going, and as long as you're passionate about wanting to keep learning, then you're going to get better.
Yeah. Michael, well, every single time we also ask people who are on the podcast, who is that one person, either from the presentation space, the industry itself, or a business person that somehow impressed you with their presentations in any shape or form, they just impressed you in a way. You saw them online or in person, that you think we should get on our podcast. Do you have a name? Just one, though.
Yes. Okay. Dr. Carmen Simon. Have you
Okay,
had her
that
on?
is nice. No, I
Okay.
know her.
Yeah.
But we need to have her, I think.
She captivated us, blew our minds, extremely smart, I think a
Yep.
neuroscientist,
Yep.
and but it was her delivery, like obviously she walks the walk. She's talking about better presenting, better content, but her delivery was just awesome, and her slides were gorgeous, highly visual, and I couldn't think of a more interesting person to interview with regard to becoming better at in the like better presenters.
Yeah, I will make sure that we invite her or try to reach out to her again. We actually invited her to present Succeed 2021. She was not able to do it.
Hmm.
And then we didn't follow up both sides in the way we promised ourselves, I would say.
Sure.
Yeah, but hey, maybe that's a perfect reason why we should reach out to her again.
Yeah.
One last here, two-part question though. Where can people find more about what GhostRanch Communications is doing? And the second part is, what is the best place or channel or social media for people to reach out to you personally?
Sure. Yeah. GhostRanch.com. That's our website. And yep, as you said, presentation boutique studio. Visit us there. If you want to find me, I don't tweet a whole lot or any of that, but we do have a podcast called Presentation Thinking, which
All
we're
right.
kind of documenting our learnings along the way. And so we're reading books, we're talking about it. It's myself and my co-host Molly, who is my partner in presentation studies, and that's what we're doing over there. So presentationthinking.com, or you could find it on Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Brilliant. I think that there was also a link to the podcast from the blog, right? Wasn't there?
I think so.
Not the
Yeah.
blog, but the website itself. I think that there was a podcast button in the menu. But
Yeah,
I'm
there
not
should
sure.
be. Yep.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we will make sure that we link
Awesome.
that one out. So the podcast, the website, you don't tweet, LinkedIn,
Yeah,
maybe?
LinkedIn. I'm on there. Michael S. Mioduski. Yeah.
All right.
Find me there.
So we'll make sure that we link those. Michael, that was great. 30 plus minutes already in. 30 plus minutes already in. Thanks for stopping by and thanks for sharing all of those ideas. We didn't have an episode like that one where we discuss kind of
That's awesome.
we do an overview on what is a presentation and how do you inspire yourself and how do you learn to be better taking ideas from any industry and anything that's happening around you so far. That was an interesting take on it. Thanks for stopping by, man. That was great.
Awesome. Thanks, Boris. Yeah, and best of luck. I'm sure it's going to be a smashing success. I know you've got a lot of work the next few weeks, but our whole team is so excited to attend.
I'm absolutely sure that everyone will enjoy it. We're looking forward to your sessions there, meaning not your session, obviously, but the session on slide docs and not slide docs, but just presentations that are being the difference between presentations that are presented live and ones that are used for leave behind, right?
Yeah.
Or ones that are sent over email. This is going to be, that was the only missing session from our agenda. This was something that I really wanted us to have, and now we have it because of you guys there. So again, everyone that's listening to this one and to the podcast, still all of the links to GhostRanch Communications' website, their podcast, and Michael's LinkedIn will be in the show notes or in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. Thanks again for joining. If you still haven't subscribed for the podcast, do it. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, like, share, comment, do whatever is needed. Everything helps and we appreciate it. Thanks again and see you in the next one.